Welcome back to another episode
of the Jesus Magnet.
Yeah, hosts tonight, well today, whenever you listen to this, George.
Hey, how's it going?
Joel.
How's it going, everyone?
Kiwi Joel, and myself, Todd.
Awesome.
We're joined by
the amazing Josh Rann.
Yeah, this is the second time on the podcast. And
hello.
So Josh,
good to be with you all again.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming back on, Josh. Josh is, anybody that's listening, you might have seen him in episode 23.
Yeah,
and it's an amazing, heartfelt testimony. So Josh, you're from Australia in Sydney, is that right?
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yep, and he goes to... Sorry, I'm going to just keep going with all these...
Carry on, just go through it, and then I'll tell you how many listens you've had.
Yes. He's at Horizon Church, Sutherland.
Sutherland, the Shire.
Yeah, and he works as a youth leader. Well, not works as a youth leader, but volunteers as a youth leader. He's in the production team, which is called The Network, and he pretty much works with 12 to 18-year-old youths. That's quite a hard word to say. Youths. And there's a massive youth group, a massive one of, 200-odd people, Josh?
Yeah, and that's around about, yeah.
That's insane.
Cool.
Like, I can't imagine the level that some of those nights must get.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's very wild. Very, very wild. Especially because I didn't grow up with it. Like, it was something, I started going there when I was 18, now 20. And it was like, whoa, this is cool.
Yeah, for sure. You wanted me to wait till we start the episode. So, currently, we've had 1,900 plays.
Whoa.
And of that, your episodes had 141 listens.
Oh, okay.
So that's heaps, and that's coming in second. So that's cool, man.
Wow.
You get your story out there.
It's cool because it wasn't that long ago that your story came out there. And on podcasting, like, we're not a very big podcast as of yet, but it shows you. Todd and I talk about this all the time. When you share your testimony in real life, you might get a chance to do it once, maybe twice a year in a good year. That's me personally, that's Todd personally, and most people that we talk to. So the fact that you've shared your testimony, how many times?
141.
141 times in the last probably 3 months. That's more than you would do in your whole life. So it's so powerful. I know it might not sound like a big number, but I think it's an incredible number when you put it in the perspective on how many times you would probably share your testimony without a podcast. So
that's so true, yeah.
It's so powerful. The reach is super far. So thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Josh, for coming on that last podcast and then coming back on.
That's it.
Yeah.
No worries.
Just over the ditch.
Awesome.
This time.
Awesome.
Not in person, sadly, but maybe sometimes then.
Oh, internet's great, isn't it? Technology.
Speaking of internet, just a disclaimer, if it does cut out, we will probably just pause the episode and restart when we get them back.
Not that you'll ever notice, though.
Yeah, rural internet.
All right, let's get into it. Josh, what is the most important thing with discipling the younger generation in youth? And why have you got such a big heart for it? What's God been telling you? Why do you do it? All those questions.
That's a great question, Joel. And my answer would probably be the most important thing would be to kind of develop or sow the seed for a personal relationship with God. Like that's the end goal for every kind of young person to have. And why I do that and why that's so, like I put so much into doing that is because that is something that changed my life and brought me through so many things that so often tear people down in the world. Whereas I found this hope and, was so encouraged by faith, God, and my Christianity, and having that personal relationship makes it such a alive, active kind of daily thing. So, I'd say that's the most important thing, and that's kind of why I do it.
That's incredible.
And it's great because for me, again, coming from such a real place, when like I'm out there, when I'm at youth, when I'm, in life group, which is our like small group time, it's just, I'm passionate, I'm encouraged, and it's from a genuine place. And that often has the most real impact. So, yeah.
It's so important. One thing that I always like to think of when it comes to discipleship, and especially just teaching the younger generation, is when you look at the Pharisees and then you look at the disciples. So you got these Pharisees, they're experts in the law, they're experts and they know everything that was in the Bible at the time. They could quote any scripture, and they had no discipleship. And then you've got Jesus, who says, lean on me, lean on the Holy Spirit, and I'll give you what you need to say. And that whole twist in the way that your heart needs to be towards God is not a knowledge of God, but it's a heart for God. And that really is only taught through discipleship and not intellectually, not through memory. I know in Sunday school they teach you to memorize lots of verses, not saying that that's a bad thing, but with the discipleship of taking somebody under your arm and actually empowering them, encouraging them, walking Christ-like with them at the same time, that's when you get to that next level. And that's when Christianity goes from being a habitual lifestyle to being a real reality, a real life-changing lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's super powerful. So having people in life like you, Josh, I take my hat off to you every day. You are walking such an important journey and discipling these young ones, and there's so many as well. Like, you've got such a massive youth group. So how do you've got 40 different leaders, is that right?
Yeah, around about.
So how do you guys sort of, what brought you guys to be able to expand that youth so well?
Well, I think it came from quite a few years ago. I'm not too good with the history, but around about 5-6-ish years ago, we kind of like rebranded. So I don't know, there was lots going on in the church, and then we like rebranded our name and like changed everything structurally that we did. And then just over the years, implementing like really good systems, I suppose, and I think what makes the difference is having the ones that are leading and making the decisions, like having like an intimate and flourishing kind of personal relationship with God, because everything else overflows from that. So I think it's just, I would say it's years of that that have brought us to where we are. As well, being in like a location in the Shire, there are a lot of young people in our area. And that's kind of the demographic, and it's a great location as well. But that's, I'd say, I guess, things that have attributed to the growth, and I suppose, God planned for all this to happen the way it has. So,
Is it all, like, so the 200 youth, are they all Christians?
No, I wouldn't say so. Probably... Well, we have all the stats, man. We got great administration kind of systems, but I don't know where they are right now on me. I'd say 50-50, maybe 40-60. I'd say so. But like we have a lot of people as well that'll come for a little bit and go for like a couple of years and then come back and then make decisions. Like it's a very wide variety of kind of stages with Christianity and faith and being a Christian or not. And I
guess it would be like so if you're the 50-50, it would be just essentially just running each, I don't know, you do it Friday nights, I say, and then you run it as if they were all Christians, so that you start to sow that seed in those non-Christians' hearts, and you'll start to water them and grow them, and eventually hopefully take it back to their parents and get them
100%. And it's like there are some, like fun intro elements and like flashy things, I suppose, that will like start off the night and it's fun, it's engaging, but then very much the core of the night, the word, the life group time, that's directed towards the Christians.
Yeah.
And if you're not, then you're right. It sows that seed, it opens the door, and it just, gets the mind thinking, I suppose. And it's really good. I think it's great that kind of comes after, like we do like games and hosting and stuff like that first.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it usually gives young people to the opportunity to bring their walls down a bit.
Yeah, for
because they're in an environment that is enjoyable. Therefore, it's kind of like worthwhile in a way. And if something enjoyable is happening and then it's leading into something that they don't know that is supposedly more enjoyable, a life with God, then I don't know. I think it's a great way of doing it, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure.
That's amazing, Josh. One thing that just really stuck out when you're saying that is that not all of the youth are Christians. And it's so important, especially in the Western churches, because we've got this image problem of you got to look godly before you can start to attend church. And Jesus totally threw that out of the park. And it's come as you are, and only through God you can be cleaned. So you can't really clean yourself up before you get to church. It's come as you are and then experience God. So it's acceptance brings change rather than change first and then you're accepted. And our whole culture is built on this idea of being accepted in a community. And that's the greatest part about a church like yours and people like you, is that they know to accept people as they are, and just love on them. That's all God said. You love your neighbor as you love yourself, more than you love yourself, And it's just so cool to see that. And I like what you said earlier, Todd, like people come in and sometimes you might just be planting that seed. And then other times you might be watering that seed, and then other times you get to harvest that seed, which is really, really cool. And that can bring the whole family in. So, yeah, it's so hard to see how far-reaching this type of ministry is.
Yeah.
I personally I'm a drum teacher, and I've had a whole bunch of my kids end up coming to church, bringing their parents along.
That's awesome.
Yes, to watch me drum. But getting the experience of Christ and realizing, I don't need to tidy myself up. I can come, and this is a good place for my heart, for my soul, for finding my reason of being here. So yeah, it's so important what you're doing.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. And a byproduct of what you were just saying. Loving on, what was it you just said, sorry, before?
With the acceptance with change? Just love.
Yeah, that's it. The byproduct of that is that you end up seeing this like the potential, the amazing, God-given potential that like these people who are yet to come to Christ have. 100%. And loving and accepting them who they are as they are when they come, like breeds a foundation for them to eventually get to like who they're called to be. And it's amazing. Like I personally have a life group of year 8 boys, and the things like I see in them and like personal traits and like qualities that are just amazing and could be such awesome kind of, tools in the kingdom.
Absolutely.
It just fuels your heart and it fills you up because, there's just so much potential in these young people. Seeing them for, who they can be with God and not what they've done or who they are, kind of thing.
Yeah, because in your last podcast, was it Ben you talked about your mum's? Yeah. So I guess like you're trying to be what he was to you, to those boys, for sure.
Definitely, yeah.
You had a big 100%. Impact, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
Josh, do you have any testimonies of anyone that you've sort of brought under your wing, or somebody that I know Ben was somebody that you were sort of under his wing, but anybody else that you would say a real testimony that we would be able to share with anybody listening through the youth that they're able to come to Christ, and anything that comes to mind.
I actually had one just the other day, actually. Let me get it up. It was on, so one of my life group boys, like a regular PK, brought a friend from like cricket.
Nice.
And his name is Luca. Shout out to Luca. He's a legend. Where's the conversation?
Luca.
And we had like a Zoom life group on last Tuesday, and we're just playing like games or whatever, Scribblio, just having a good time. And he just kind of texts me after, and he's just going on about how he's so thankful to the Lord that he'd led him to the group and to the youth. And he's going on saying that this group has helped me in so many ways, and he can't wait to spend like so many more years with Horizon. And then he also leads in to say, it was like I was in a really bad place when I entered youth. It wasn't a good time. And he's like, now life's so much better.
So cool.
And just kind of me giving the glory to God, I suppose, and then him agreeing. And
yeah,
it's just amazing. Like, he's such an awesome guy. He always asks like the best questions. It's so good. But yeah, I suppose that's an example. And the fact that it was over Zoom as well was super encouraging, because like consistency is biblical, and like doing things over different seasons, like then seeing the impact it has is amazing. And for Luca to just share with me the impact that it's all had on him was just amazing.
Yeah.
And he's awesome. So that's, I suppose a youth testament, a race, like legit, like last Tuesday. So
that's so cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How do you encourage the youth to have their own relationship with God? Like, because I can imagine at that age it'd be very easy to live off like being their leader, your faith, rather than having their own belief. Like, how would you encourage them?
Great question. And it's it's funny, like teenage boys, like I know how it was for me at that age. Like personally, I didn't really start considering things seriously, as I talked about in the last podcast, around 16, 17. And while you're young, especially as a male, there's just so much going on, and you aren't really a lot of the time old enough or mature enough to just kind of see the fullness of what's actually like the faith and Jesus' sacrifice. But how I would encourage a relationship for them is, first of all, being as genuine as I can be, and like sharing like relatable, real kind of stories, and also emotions and thoughts behind a lot of those stories, I suppose. And also just sharing things that worked with me. I definitely didn't grow up a reader, and it's something I'm still working on. But in high school, what really helped me was just daily devotional. So it wasn't like a huge read, but it was something that like kind of set my mind up for this daily kind of God perspective instead of just walking into the day. And like that's something that just would help me just keep in rhythm, see life differently, and would also awaken kind of your mind to how much more is going on than you realize, and like how alive faith is. So the fruit of that for me was that it just over time deepened and deepened my faith, which led into so much more. So trying to just give practical things that are tangible and like that young, I suppose, people would want to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Daily devotionals, they're so powerful. And they're easy. You know, it's not like
super easy.
Can you imagine slamming the Bible onto a youth's desk and being like, this is what you got to read? It's pretty intimidating.
Start in numbers.
Yeah. But But yeah,
It's
daily
daunting,
devotionals are so powerful. Just that Bible app, is that what you use?
I was actually given my brother was given it and then I inherited it. It's called Jesus Calling. I can get it over there if you want, but it was just I can get it if you want, but it's through that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which is sick.
That's awesome.
Who's the author of that book? Or
I'd have to get up and get it. It's like right over there. Do you want me to get up and get it? Or?
yeah, because I want to ask a question to George, and then while you do that,
All right, yeah, you go get it. We'll spin off to George while you do that.
All right.
George, you've been awfully quiet, so I'm throwing a question to you
Curveball.
because we haven't
Here we
had
go.
your testimony yet.
Yeah.
How old were you when you encountered Jesus?
Back in the olden days.
Back in the day. So my very first recollection of vaguely anything to do with God was probably when I was like 5 or 6 years old, when I walked into this, I think it was a Presbyterian church when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I just knew, I didn't know anything about church or really anything. I think I'd heard a few Bible stories, but I just knew that this building I was in was super, super special and something really like amazing.
So even at that
That's
age,
awesome.
because you've got quite a few spiritual encounters, and you're very spiritual, like you're very in touch with what the Spirit is doing. Like that's what I sense from you quite
Yeah, right.
a lot. Because that's just the way you speak.
I try and lean my ear that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So like even at that young age, like you knew something was up, and you could.
Yeah. Yeah. Fully
quite cool.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Like how? I don't know if you attended any youth.
No, I
things
never.
back in the day?
No, I never went to youth group when I was a kid. However,
What set you on fire? Was it when you were a kid? Or was it when you're an adult?
no, it was when I was an adult.
Okay.
I got saved when I was 20 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Young adult.
oddly enough, Josh, not long after that, I ended up getting involved in youth ministry, leading youth groups, and it was a really, really interesting time. I don't do youth ministry anymore, but had a few years where
Can you imagine running
it's
200 youth?
pretty wild. Yeah, I'm impressed, mate. I'm really, really impressed.
Yeah.
200 kids to handle. That's great.
We got an amazing team, and our youth pastor, Jackson Moore, is phenomenal. He's an amazing leader. So it's amazing.
That's awesome. You got that book, do you?
Yes, so it is. You probably can't see. It's by Sarah Young.
Cool.
Apparently it was like controversial to some Christians, but I suppose that's with a lot of things. But yeah, it's amazing. I loved it. I love it still, and it's great. It has like daily things and Bible verses to like follow up everything you're reading, and it's great.
That's cool.
It's really good.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just super short, like a little page. You can't read it obviously, but it's just a page.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really good. One I'm reading at the moment is My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers. That's a really good one. I'm enjoying that.
My
Great
utmost
colour.
for his highest.
Hey, Josh, so out of your 40-odd leaders, how many are actually still at school? And how many like full-time leaders do you have, or volunteer leaders who are out working?
So none of our leaders are in school, actually. We're all... the age range is pretty much 19 to about 30.
Yeah, right.
I'd say probably like 29. Youth Pastor Jackson, he's 28 or 27. And then we got, leaders kind of ranging from there. So pretty much all of them are in either full-time work or studying at
right.
uni.
Yeah.
Unless you may have classified school as uni, maybe.
No, not quite. No.
Okay, yeah.
So I can imagine the kids coming in that don't know Jesus, or that even do, probably struggle a lot with their identity in Christ, or even their identity in the world. Is like, what do you guys do to, I guess, show them that they're loved and show them that they're a child of God? Like, is there any like courses that you guys do for the youth, I'd say?
So I suppose the way we do that is a lot of our preaching and like the words we give, like there's a word every Friday night from a preacher in Force and Chosen. Sometimes we're combined, but I suppose the message is just super tailored towards things like that a lot of the time, like struggles that, teenagers are going through, and just like kind of key buzz, I suppose, topics for young people that would address a lot of the issues that would be in their world. Courses, not so much. We offer those courses more at a church level, like when people are like new to faith or, just all different types of things. But yeah, I suppose, and like we'll do like series in our life groups as well on certain things, and in as a whole youth as a whole as well. So yeah, that's how we'd kind of address those things. Definitely we'll bring it to, I suppose, a preaching, bring it to a platform, and then in our life groups, we'll then further discuss that. And then usually leaders as well, like if something comes up for someone or it touches like home or something, you'll usually, I guess, like hang out with them one-on-one in the week or something, and follow stuff like that up, or even calls or texts or anything. So that's kind of the web for it, I suppose.
Yeah, simplify the gospel on a Friday, I guess.
Yeah.
Would be the key for that.
Yeah.
You said just then that people do one-on-ones throughout the week. Is that right?
Yeah.
So that's just you and one of the younger youths. That's awesome. Yep. When I did Youth with a Mission a few years back, it was crucial to have a one-on-one with somebody that would mentor you. So you would learn all these things throughout the week. You'd be going to these Bible studies. You'll be in prayer. You'll be in worship. And you'll have all these teachers and lecturers coming in, sharing this immense amount of knowledge and wisdom about the Bible and God and the understanding. And it's very similar to like what a youth would probably experience just going to church and maybe never hearing about any of this stuff before. It's a lot to take in, and you can get a little bit lost, a little bit drown in all that information, not knowing how everything works. Like, okay, Jesus died, but why does him dying mean I can live, and resurrecting, and if he had to die and just resurrect, what's the point in that? So like all these questions that these kids have, for me, when I was in Youth with a Mission, that one-on-one time was the little point during my week where I could just pour out all these questions onto somebody wiser, more knowledgeable than myself, and they were able to expand on anything that I wasn't really sure on. And it's so important to have those one-on-ones. So it's so cool to hear that you do that.
Yeah,
and
it's definitely a big culture thing for us. Like it's we have definitely the same value of importance of stuff like that. And even for me, like so we have like a system. So we have life group leaders that'll have like, for instance, I have year 8 boys, so I want to have like year 9 girls, and blah, blah, blah. And then we have borough leaders and borough. So what borough is where all the life group leaders get together under a borough leader. So it's not like a pyramid. It's actually like a reverse pyramid or whatever. So it's like the
points at the bottom.
Yeah. So
what's at the bottom?
So we have, like Jackson, the youth pastor, will be at the bottom. So it's like a blessing to be a blessing. So like to those kind of,
pay it
like
forward.
there's always someone to help you. It's not like levels.
Yeah.
People aren't like above or below each other. Anyways,
Reverse
we have this borough, we have this borough, and so it's where leaders, it's a leader that leads the other leaders. And we are like, my borough leader, Alec, I'm such good mates with him. He's a legend. And I often have one-on-one time with him, and that's what like even makes a difference to me in terms of leading and faith and life and everything. So even at that level, like at all levels, it's there.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like I love personally as well, like my personality, I like thrive with the one-on-one and the connection, the deep conversation. So when I get to do that with my LG boys, like I'll make it fun as well. Like for instance, one of the boys lives at this apartment complex and he has a tennis court. So we'll go play tennis at his, or like I'll go to the driving range with another, or like get food, or
Cool.
It's fun. I love it. It's great. It's
so
that, as you
important.
said,
Yeah. And
extra point of
that's at any age of
discipleship.
Christians as well. Like, just having that accountability partner and mentor. And,
Yeah,
that's super cool that you do that.
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. It makes the most impact, I think.
And having a one-on-one leader, and you can probably the best advice I would say regarding like having somebody to confide in a one-on-one is certain people that you can recognize those strengths in. So for like, I will go to one person for if I really, really don't understand theological stuff. And then I'll go to another person when it's I don't really understand the emotional ties to just loving people. And they're two totally different people. And they've just got a really good understanding on those two separate things. So sometimes like when people have these one-on-ones, if anybody's listening, you can have multiple one-on-ones. And it's so important to just sit down with one person and confide with that one person. It doesn't have to be a big group. It doesn't have to be multiple people. But you can have lots of different one-on-ones. And it's probably... That's what discipling is in my head, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially for me, I think a very practical example for me is when I'm on a journey with something and I'm trying to figure something out or learn something. Just getting those different wisdoms as well from multiple people is like invaluable. And like that's how you make your own decisions with God, but you seek that counsel and wisdoms. And it really helps. Like the amount of things you just don't think of in your own mind that someone else could, it's just phenomenal because you're like, oh wow, like I'm so glad that I'm talking about this or seeking wisdom.
I in hindsight now, I really, really, really wished that I would have had someone invite me to youth group when I was a teenager because I never had that. I had my mates who were there beside me, but I never really had anyone like mature or someone I could look up to as a mentor for those areas of my life that, just weren't right at that time. So it's I love that whole analogy of a brick wall where it's like, as a Christian, you help those who are new in the faith and you help them, you like pull them up and encourage them. And then you've got your peers who are beside you, your mates who are like, you're kind of like on the same level. And then you've got your mentors who are above you and you've got this whole network right around you. And it's just an amazing atmosphere to grow in faith and then just see that snowball and grow. It's awesome. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And it gets me passionate when I hear that as well. Like you wish you had someone to invite you to youth.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Like a lot of the times I feel like we can, assume that, people won't suit it or like, we can make these assumptions in our head, but it's like no one is out of reach. And like, you never know like who could be wanting to come or who, that's awesome. I wish that, you would have been invited, but it's very encouraging to hear that.
Yeah.
That's how you'd reflect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you noticed an increase or yearning? That's the right word, right? A yearning from youth during these lockdowns and stuff to get involved in that youth community?
Yeah, definitely. I've been doing calls today and yesterday actually for the network team, just touching base with a lot of the students who serve. And we've been doing Friday night live streams, which has been fun. And like Zoom live groups and after parties and whatnot. And like definitely people are like stuck at home and there's not much going on, and it can be a very hopeless time for a young person. And you're just in school, or you just in school, and there's not too much happening. But it's like getting back involved with Horizon Youth and just faith, like it gives you hope. And so I think there's definitely an increase in yearning, like pretty much everyone I've spoken to today and yesterday have just been like, because we were on the verge of our camp. We were legit 2 weeks away, or a week actually, and then it got cancelled. And just so near, just so like disappointed and like, they're like, upset that it didn't happen because they were really looking forward to it. And even we found the effect as well, like when we returned to campus, because we did an online season last year. And then when we returned, like we hadn't really lost numbers and it was on fire. Everyone was just having such a great time.
That's cool.
Because, I guess just once being removed from it, you then value it more.
Definitely.
So, I'd say there's been an increase in yearning for young people. Yeah.
What about in the high schools at the moment? How are the kids receptive to Christianity, or what's the general consensus with the kids?
I think in today's age, a lot more things are accepted and considered than they used to be. And alongside many things of the world, Christianity also falls in that kind of department. Yeah. So I'd say, yes, there is more of a like intrigue, and like we have plenty of Christian schools in the area and stuff like that. I'd say it's a growing thing, especially with like social media and all those types of things that are the one world of sharing the gospel. Yeah. I'd definitely say it's on an incline, an increase. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I might just jump back into the one-on-ones again. I think it's one of the fundamentals of growing your faith is having good one-on-ones. And I'll just start off with the scripture, Hebrews 11 verse 6. But without faith, it is impossible to be well pleasing to him, for he who comes forward to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. So essentially, without faith, it's impossible to please God, is what the very first part of that verse says. And when you've got a one-on-one, like to put prayer into practice it can be easy to do by yourself, but when you've got a one-on-one, you're able to actually practice praying for somebody else and with somebody else. Because, like, let's be honest, this is what Corey said on Sunday. He said Christianity's weird. It is a weird thing. You know, people praying all the time and singing, and it doesn't get any less weird. But that's because we're not of this world. We're in this world, but not of this world. So if we looked like what the world has, then we're probably not doing Christianity right. So with, encouraging that type of nature, that type of action, to put prayer into action, in James, it talks about faith without works is dead.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, works is actions. So by actioning that prayer and with somebody else, you're acknowledging that with somebody else, and that also jumps into another scripture where Jesus says, "Those who acknowledge me in front of others, I will acknowledge in front of my Father." So you're acknowledging who Christ is in your life just in the act of prayer. You're also creating faith through the action of works, and through all of that, in Hebrews 11 verse 6, you're pleasing God, because without faith, it is impossible to please God. So it all ties in together, and this beautiful way to give God all the glory, get closer to God, and challenge yourself to grow to be more Christ-like. It's just amazing. Yeah.
And that's, a big byproduct of youth leading is that, setting the right standard. And, if you set the bar up here, they're going to follow one step below kind of thing. Yeah. So it's high challenge. It really is. And it's amazing, though, to see the fruits of those challenges, when persevered and journeyed with God, because it does make a difference, like setting the bar higher and like setting a good example and practicing what you preach and whatnot.
Yeah. I'm also in the band at church, playing the drums, and the one thing that my brother had mentioned to me a few years back now, he went to Hillsong College, and they taught him there's always someone watching you. And he said, you pick your nose, and you think no one's watching. If you're on stage, someone can see you, always. Even if you think everyone's looking at the pastor, even if you think everyone's looking at the lead singer, there's always at least 1 to 10 to 100 people always watching you, and you can't get away with anything. So essentially, like, don't look bored, be engaged. Like, it's a sort of stage presence is what he was being taught at Hillsong College. It's quite good to encourage others in church, and I understand it. But I just want to share that because it shines a light on being a youth leader. And like you said, those that are listening, Josh had his hands in front of him, and he said, at this height is where you've got to lead. And then he dropped his hand down about a foot and said, but they will follow you about this much. And it's the same thing. Like, you, as a youth leader, you're always being watched. You got to watch everything that you do. But that should challenge you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
In a good way. It's not like, oh no, I can't do anything wrong. But even when you do wrong, it's a way to share and to show true humility and what it looks like. We're all human. But yeah, just to keep that in mind, for anybody like that is practicing, like, your circle of influence can be greater than you think. As a youth leader, I'm not just talking about you, Josh, but anybody that's listening that might work with anybody younger, that your circle of influence is something that, God put around you, and for you to encourage and to boost others. Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Because kids are essentially a mirror.
Yep.
And they generally will copy what's going on, like all the trends and stuff on TikTok and Instagram. Like, they'll see that stuff. So, like, I know following you on Instagram, you're pretty good at what you post on there. So, like, I'm sure that there's kids out there that follow you on Instagram as well and see what you post. But it all of a sudden will become normal to be who you are. Like, it won't be just you turning up on a Friday and struggling to be someone that you don't want to be. Like, it. Yeah. As soon as you start representing Jesus and allowing Jesus to be who you're, like, you're trying to be more like Jesus, and there's kids trying to be more like you, eventually they'll step into trying to be just like Jesus as well. So, like, for sure.
It's very true, 100%. And, like, we talk about it in, like, leadership sessions that we kind of do, and, like, there's a little diagram for it. It's like there's above reproach, and there's, like, the gray area, and then there's, like, sin. And it's like, if you are in a gray area with anything, like a student that's, like, learning from you or gleaning off you will, again, follow that step down. So it's about being above reproach in the things you do. That's a big buzzword around Horizon, above reproach.
100%. Did you guys want to share anything else? I just thought maybe it's a good time to probably wrap up, but probably the main things that we want to share before we go is that when you are, discipling young people, and when it comes to youth leading and encouraging those, is to look at, like, have lower expectations, but lead strong, and encourage that one-on-one with other people. Anything else, George?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you quickly, Josh, about your camp meetings, mate. And have you had any wild Holy Ghost camp meetings lately?
Camp meetings?
Or, like, youth camps?
So, no, like, last year's was cancelled and this year's was as well.
Oh, yeah, right.
But it's usually it's usually kind of a big revival session and lots of kids, you know, and I'm speaking in tongues and all sorts of things. And
Yeah, right. Nice.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
But no, this year's and last year's was cancelled. Oh, it's very rough, especially because this year, like, I don't know, we make like a big promo video. It's funny, when I was in New Zealand, when I was with you guys the first week, I was just grinding, like doing heaps of editing and orchestrating all the film stuff that we'd done that we were releasing while I was over in New Zealand. I was on my Mac so much, like figuring it all out. But yeah, it was super disappointing that it got cancelled. But it's okay, you know, God's in control, and we'll have a camp again eventually. But no, we haven't had one recently, unfortunately, or a conference even. We do have one planned for this year for our church. But again, last year's was cancelled. Hopefully we can have this year's one. Yeah. Because that would be really awesome.
Yeah. Some of the most amazing meetings I've been to, I think, have been youth meetings. Just wild. Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
even like going as a helper to the it was 2 years ago, just before COVID, like literally a week before we went into lockdown. We had a meeting,
that's good.
And then like the day after I got sick, I was like, "Uh-oh."
Dear.
Anyway, like there was kids there that were just like full on getting like falling over because they were just
slain.
It was crazy to see, and these kids were like, "Oh my gosh, is she okay? Like, what's going on here?" And like she's just like encountered God for the first time.
Christianity's
like,
weird.
Yeah, like you're probably too young for this one, Josh, but so am I. Have you heard of the Jesus Freak by DC Talk?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What would people do if they found that I'm a Jesus freak?
What would people do when they find out it's true?
Oh.
Yeah.
it's just like,
That's
what?
all that goes through my head when people are like, "Man, you're crazy."
That's funny.
Yeah.
Hilarious. And I think what's awesome though is for us, a lot of our leaders, like their testimonies and their kind of salvations are linked to a lot of those as well. So when camp rolls around, or even when just the opportunity arises for someone to preach their story or whatever, like it links to kind of a camp experience, I suppose. And we, of course, always tie in that it's not a building or a place that God moves. It's everywhere. But yeah, it's camps are seriously amazing. Especially because so much goes into it. And then it's just amazing. Like, not the fruit that comes of that. Just in the young people it's just, it fills you up.
Yeah.
Legend, bro. Keep it up, man.
Yeah.
That's encouraging, eh? Yeah, it's so awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Youth of Horizon that are listening to this, cherish this man. He's great. He's full of wisdom.
Epic, yeah.
No, it's good. It's good. Thanks, guys. Yeah, no, I'm just thankful that like I'm 20 and for the past 2 years I've been so involved, and I'm only getting more and more involved, and I'm loving it. And the fact that it's just the beginning of my life is very exciting.
Yeah.
So,
It's cool, man. Keep it up.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Pastor Josh.
Yeah.
Bit of prophecy
I have not
there.
heard that before.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have you done a sermon or anything for youth?
I have actually. Speaking of doing youth ministry, you do things you never thought you'd do, and you get stretched in many, many ways. It was about a month or two ago, actually. I preached a word in the fourth age group, so that's where I'm in the fourth, so which is from year 6 to 8. And it was amazing. It was actually on a quiet time that I'd had over in New Zealand.
Nice.
And it was, I never thought I'd do it. I'm very much not a good public speaker. Like, I'm good one-on-one and like in conversation. But I was very shy and never ever thought that I could have done it. But it went really well, actually. And I was very surprised. And it was natural. I wasn't shaking or stumbling everywhere. And but I have preached a word. It was good. It was really good.
So good.
It's awesome.
Well, then there you go. Prophecy might come true, or will come true. Who knows what God has planned for you?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Well, thanks for joining us again, Josh. It was awesome to have you. And
thank you for having me. You guys are awesome. I'm so glad I'm back. Time's gone by, but we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna
fully,
have to
man.
Get you back on again and again because, you're full of wisdom at such a young age. If you enjoyed this podcast, it was for a different age group of, I guess, if you're part of a youth or you're looking at joining youth or you're trying to inspire youth, then we really hope you got something out of this. And just, pray God uses this message to reach and inspire.
100%.
Amen.
Cool. Cheers, Josh.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh.
Hey, see you, Josh. Thanks, man.
We'll catch you next time
Awesome.
on The
Sounds
Jesus Magnet.